Hello everyone. In this lesson we're starting a new chapter all about deploying or launching or quote-unquote going live with our WordPress website. Let's dive into an overview of exactly what we're going to cover in this chapter. So in this chapter let's learn how to, and then I have three main goals or objectives for us that you and I are going to accomplish together. So number one, we're going to learn how to copy a WordPress website from our local dev environment, like the local WP app, up to a real web host or a real .com domain so that the entire world can view it, right? Because currently, with your local dev environment, you are the only person in the world that can view this website. So how do you actually push it up onto the live public web? That's what we're going to learn how to do. Number two, we're going to learn how to make updates to existing code files like PHP, JavaScript, CSS that are on our live public sites. So let's say instead of fictionaluniversity.local, what if this was like mysite.com? And what if my site had been live for 3 months and then I decided I need to make an update to a CSS file? Well, you don't want to have to log into some awkward web panel and, upload files through a website. So I'm going to show you the industry standard way of handling that, the professional developer way of handling updates using something called Git. In other words, when you're in VS Code writing new JavaScript or PHP, you won't even need to leave the VS Code terminal in order to push your latest code files up to your real live domain, your live website. So that's going to be a really easy, really efficient professional workflow for handling ongoing updates. All right, and then goal number three is essentially how can we accomplish these first two goals in the most cost-efficient way for the largest number of WordPress websites. Because between you and all of your clients, you might have, 10, 20, 30 different websites, and you really don't want to have to be paying a different bill for each one of those 20 or 30 websites. So I want to show you how to set these features up in a way that doesn't increase your bill for every new WordPress website you add. Right? It should cost you the same per month, whether you have 1 or 2 websites or whether you have 50 websites. Awesome. So that's the overview of what we're going to do in this chapter. Now, before we move forward right away, I want to say that in the past, I've never included a fully comprehensive deployment guide like this because I didn't want to show you specifics for one hosting company because there are so many to choose from and they're all slightly different. I didn't want to influence you on which company to use, but in the process of me being so impartial and hands-off and neutral, I wasn't sharing with you all my real-world tips and tricks that work for me. And that wasn't serving students. So in this redesigned new chapter, I am going to show you the exact strategies, settings, hosting companies, the exact plans that I use, and you're free to emulate my setup. You're free to take some of these concepts and adapt them to whatever hosting company or strategy you want to use. But just to get this out of the way right up front, I use a web hosting company called DreamHost, and I have for the last 19 years, almost 2 decades. So if you click on my link to DreamHost in one of these lessons, I will indeed receive an affiliate sign-up bonus payment. You don't pay an extra penny by using my link. DreamHost will simply pay me for sort of like an affiliate finder's fee. So you can consider using my links to DreamHost in this chapter as like leaving a tip. Only use my links if you feel so inclined. Anyways, now that we've established what we're going to accomplish in this chapter, it's time to get started. So in the very next lesson, we're going to talk about the type of hosting plan that I have personally used for 19 years for all of my projects and all of my clients' projects. You're going to learn how you can get started hosting live public WordPress websites. So let's keep our momentum rolling, and I will see you in the next lesson. Hello, everyone. In this lesson, I want to talk about my recommended type of web hosting. Let's jump into the action. All right, we've got a lot to talk about and cover in this lesson, but I want to start from a common home base, and that is the official WordPress.org website. So, from their homepage, if you click on hosting in the top bar, from this page, we'll see that there's really only 3 companies as of, April 2024 that they're recommending. So number 1 is Bluehost, number 2, Hostinger, and number 3, DreamHost. Now, I've already told you that I've used DreamHost for the last 19 years, so there's no secrets here. That's the one that ultimately I'm going to recommend. But over the next few minutes, I want to explain to you not only why that's the company I'm choosing, but even amongst these different companies, there's different types of hosting plans. Like even if you decided you wanted to use Bluehost, they have some plans that are more expensive, some that are more affordable, some that are shared, some that are dedicated, some that are cloud, some that are managed, some that are unmanaged. So I want to spend maybe just the next, like 5 minutes sort of explaining to you not just the company I would recommend, but the type of plan and just sort of the different options that are out there. And I'm not, this isn't a sales pitch. I'm just going to walk through the different websites and types of plans and literally tell you what my personal thoughts are, like what I would recommend to myself, to my clients, to my friends and family. Cool. So let's just work through these in order. So we'll start with Bluehost. All right, so here we are on Bluehost. The reason personally that I don't use Bluehost is if you go into web hosting, and first of all, I don't ever need their WordPress managed hosting. If you can keep WordPress updated to the newest version, you really don't need managed hosting. So under web hosting, let me click on that, and then I would look at their different plans. Okay, and right away I'm seeing that their most affordable plan, here's what I'm looking for. It only lets you have one website. Okay, and then their next most affordable plan, it only lets you have 3 websites. And then their next most affordable, again, you only get 3 websites. So just right off the bat, I'm sure a lot of people have had amazing luck with Bluehost. Maybe somewhere else on their website, they have some sort of way where you could have infinite websites or more websites. But right here, I've already seen what I need to see. Personally, I'm not going to use Bluehost for that reason. I want to be able to have, 10, 20, 50 websites. Okay, so the next one is Hostinger. So from their website, I'll let you know that I've never used Hostinger personally, but if I personally wasn't using DreamHost, just from what I've seen, my next bet would probably be Hostinger. Because on their website, under hosting, if you click on web hosting, and then look at their different deals down here, you can see that even their most, let me zoom out a little bit, even their most affordable plan lets you have 100 websites. So I know that's not infinite or unlimited, but 100 is a lot. So you can have 100 websites on their most affordable basic plan. Cool. I've never used Hostinger, but in my opinion, this wouldn't be a bad choice. Okay, and then the only other company officially listed on WordPress.org is DreamHost, and I'm letting you know that's the company I use. I have always used them for close to 2 decades. Cool. So this is the company I'm going to move forward with in this chapter, in this guide. I'm going to show you all of the exact DreamHost settings, the plan that I use, so on and so forth. But before we even dig into that, I just want to have full transparency. I want to show you the different options that are out there. Like if you have more money to spend, a really common premium option is something called WP Engine, right? WordPress Engine. So if you had a website that was getting tons and tons of traffic, right, and a more affordable host just wasn't going to be fast enough because you were getting so much traffic and your website was making you money, so you could afford a little bit of a premium hosting plan, WordPress Engine might be a great choice. However, if we go into their products and click on WordPress hosting, and then just let me look for the pricing area. Actually, let me click pricing in the top navigation. Obviously, this is out of the question for most people that are starting websites, right? You can't pay $400 a month. So if we look at the Essential plan for $20 a month and you click Select and you start to look at it and you compare the different plans, right away you'll see that the $20 a month only lets you have, down here, 1 website. And then for this plan, even if you were willing to pay $40 a month, you can only have 3. This plan for $77 a month, you can have up to 10. So again, in my use case, I want to be able to create lots of different websites, right? Like as an entrepreneur, or in my case, I have different clients, friends, and family. I can host all of their websites in my DreamHost account without needing to spend an extra $1. So just the way that I use WordPress for lots of different marketing websites and client websites, this really wouldn't make sense for me. However, this would be a great choice if you had just like 1 or 2 or 3 websites that were getting tons of traffic and you were making money from those websites. And so you wanted a bit of peace of mind. You wanted like a really fast, managed, premium, excellent host. Well, then sure. If your website's making money, then $20 or $40 a month is nothing, right? Like it's a meaninglessly small amount of money. Cool. In that case, WP Engine is a great choice. However, I think a lot of the times you're not going to want just 1 or 3 or 5 or 10 websites. So that's why I personally don't recommend this type of hosting plan. Kinsta is similar to WP Engine, right? They are another company that offers that sort of premium hosting experience if you're getting more traffic, so on and so forth, managed WordPress hosting. But again, if you view the plans, $30 a month, you can have 1 WordPress website. or even $60 a month, you can have 2 WordPress installs. So I'm just letting you know there's different options out there. Maybe that fits what you need. It doesn't fit what I need and what most of my friends, family, and clients need. All right, next option. If you're super tech savvy, like you know how to install Linux on a computer, like if you know how to provision your own operating system and install things on the command line, a decent option, sometimes you can have a really great host for $5 or $10 a month, would be either Linode or Vultr or DigitalOcean. However, that requires a lot of technical knowledge, and even if you have that technical knowledge, there's still a lot of upkeep. Now you have to make sure, that your operating system is up to date for security reasons. You're going to have to manage like the RAM and memory usage and the hard drive usage. And anyways, if you or a friend is like super duper tech savvy, that is a good option, but it requires a lot of work. You have to really know what you're doing. And then sort of a hybrid approach to that would be something like cloudways.com, where they handle all of that technical savviness for you. But behind the scenes, they're sort of using a company like Linode or DigitalOcean or Vultr or whatever. So a lot of people have had great luck using Cloudways. But again, if you look at their pricing structure, you're spending $14 a month or $28 a month or $54 a month. And it's going to be up to you to make sure that you can fit however many websites you want to fit within that RAM, within that storage. So again, that is a great option for some people, but in my mind, I just can't beat the simplicity, the ease of mind, the peace of mind of knowing that I'm using DreamHost. I can have unlimited websites. I don't have to worry about storage or RAM or security updates. So let me explain the plan that I actually use. So from dreamhost.com, under hosting, we don't want to use WordPress, first of all. Again, I don't want or need managed WordPress hosting. I can make sure that my WordPress installation is up to date. So I'm going to go under, and this is true of any hosting company, right? Bluehost, Hostinger. I always go under the hosting category, not WordPress. And under the generic hosting category, I want the plan that's called shared website hosting. And now here, if you scroll down just a little bit, here's the crucial difference between the two plans that they offer, right? Shared starter and shared unlimited. So this one, you can only have one website, but this is the plan I've used for 19 years. You have unlimited websites, and it's almost the same price as the most affordable option. So, I mean, the value here is just out of this world, in my opinion. I've stuck with this plan for almost 2 decades. So it comes included with a free domain, right? Like your own free.com, unlimited traffic, infinite number of websites. You can create as many like your name at your.com email addresses as you want. They're going to make sure that their operating system and their PHP version and MySQL version stay up to date. I mean, this is as good as it gets in my opinion. Now, obviously the speed might not be the best in the world. Obviously, you're going to get better site load speed performance from a more expensive host. However, this is what I want to talk about with you right now. Because what if you're thinking, Brad, the speed of my website is very important to me. I want the most blazingly fast website that can handle 1 billion visitors per hour. Here's what I'm going to tell you, okay? You could start with a premium, more expensive host like, WP Engine or any of the dedicated, faster hosting plans. I mean, you get what you pay for. If you're going to spend way more money per month, yes, your site will be a little bit faster and can handle much more traffic. But let me stop you right there. 95 to 99% of websites don't get basically any traffic. So this is where you need to stop and be brutally honest with yourself. Do you have any companies or websites that are getting tons and tons and tons and tons of traffic a month? If the answer is yes, then absolutely. You don't need to follow my advice here. You can use a more premium WordPress host. But what I'm trying to let you know is I think you can, for 95 to 99% of you out there, you can cross that bridge if and when you get to it. Because really, in my opinion, the only real world downside to a shared web host like the ones that I use, so this is my personal website, learnwebco.com. I can refresh it. It's very quick. I can go down to the footer, like if I visit my About page, you can see how quick it's launching, right? Like click into the blog. If I click on this blog post, if I go back, I click on this blog post. I mean, this is really fast to me. And this is on a shared basic DreamHost plan that I was telling you about. And I don't get tons of traffic, but I get a decent amount. I've been around on the web for over a decade. I have a lot of students. I'm not getting tons of traffic, but you can imagine I'm getting, at least a moderate amount of traffic. And I've never needed anything more than this. So all I'm trying to tell you, there's tons of amazing, more expensive hosts out there. And yes, if you were getting, like, if your website goes viral, or, you know, you're famous, or you get tons and tons and tons of traffic, by that point, your website's probably making you a lot of money. So then, yeah, sure, go sign up for a more expensive hosting plan. But I'm just telling you, you don't need to preemptively do that. You can cross that bridge if and when you ever get to it. I would say there's like a 95 to 99% chance that all of your sites, all of your friends and family sites, all of your client sites, they're not going to get tons of traffic, right? Most websites are sort of just a brochure that's just sitting there, and it might get a moderate amount of traffic, but you're not the next Facebook.com, right? You're not the next Google.com. So do with that information what you will. It's totally your decision. This is what I would, literally, this is the plan that I've recommended to local nonprofits, friends, families, businesses that I work with. This is just as far as my recommendation. It starts and ends with this plan on DreamHost. I don't think you can beat the value, the ease of use, the reliability of this plan. Right? I've given it my personal 19-year endorsement of using it in my real life. Cool. So again, in the resources for this lesson, you'll see a link to DreamHost to sign up for this plan. If you use that link and you sign up, I will indeed receive a bonus payment, sort of a finder's fee from DreamHost. But really, this is less of a sales pitch, and this is more of just a recommendation of what I've done for 19 years. Cool. So in the very next lesson, I'm going to show you what it would look like if you signed up for this plan, and we're going to learn how to start creating WordPress websites on real hosting. I'm excited to jump into this with you, and I'll see you in that next lesson very soon. Hello everyone. In this lesson, we're going to walk through how to set up WordPress on a real live public domain like a .com, for example. Let's jump into the action. So here I am logged into my DreamHost panel, or I guess you could call it the dashboard. And if you sign up for the shared unlimited plan that we looked at in the previous lesson, I believe that comes with one free domain. And so if you're on a brand new fresh account, you'll probably just have that one domain. But either way, the first step is to just click on Manage My Websites either here or in the left-hand menu. We can click on Websites and then click Manage Websites. Okay, from this screen, you'll see all of your websites. And I'm blurring this just for my client's privacy. But if I scroll through this list, you can see that I have a lot of different websites and domains hosted on my one very affordable shared unlimited DreamHost account. Now again, your account will come with one free domain, and you can buy as many additional domains as you want, but domains do cost money. However, the idea is that you could have, if you buy 500 domains, you could host 500 different websites on this one shared hosting plan for the same one affordable, shared unlimited price. So in other words, I might pay like $10 a year for this domain. I might pay $12 a year for this domain. But in terms of this actual DreamHost hosting plan, even if I have 500 of those domains to host the websites, it's just that one affordable fixed cost. Anyways, let's get to the real task at hand that I'm trying to complete right now. So on my local dev environment, on my private computer, here's my fictional university website. And because it's just on my local dev environment, I am the only person in the whole world that can view this website. So right now, I want to practice working through with you, how would you sort of move this website up onto a live public domain? Well, before we worry about migrating or copying this website, the first step is to just install WordPress on one of our live hosted domains. Now, I don't feel like spending extra money right now, so I'm not going to buy a brand new domain.com just for this lesson. Instead, I already have learnwebcode.com. So I'm just going to create a subdomain called like fictional, as in fictional university, fictional.learnwebcode.com. Anyways, from the manage website screen in your DreamHost panel, we're just going to click this add website here in the top right area. Okay, as soon as you click on that, you have a few options. You can choose one of the domains you already have registered with DreamHost, or you can create a subdomain, or you can buy a brand new domain. So you would choose the option that makes sense for you, but in my case, I'm not going to buy a brand new .com right now. I'm just going to create a subdomain. You're also free to do this, or if you want to, if you're ready to go live, you could just use your actual domain that you registered for free when you signed up. But if you want to practice, like you want like practice.yourdomain.com, like I'm doing fictional.learnwebcode.com, let's use this create a subdomain option. Cool. So for the subdomain field, I'll say fictional, and then for the parent domain, just use this select dropdown and select your domain. Cool, so fictional.learnwebcode.com. Let's click next, hosting. Okay, by default, it's going to know to use your shared unlimited hosting. That's perfect, so you can click select. Okay, and then for user, this default option of a new user, that's perfect, that's great. So let's click setup website over here. Okay, great, so I see website setup was successful, but now I do think it'll take maybe a few minutes for it to actually be ready. Yes, so in a new tab, I just tried to visit fictional.learnwebcode.com, and I'll probably need to wait maybe like 3 or 4 or 5 minutes. Okay, so I just stepped away from my desk for maybe 5 or 6 minutes, and when I came back, it had automatically refreshed, so my subdomain is ready. All right, but this has nothing to do with WordPress. This is just a basic static HTML page. So you might not have even needed to create a subdomain. Maybe you just have the one domain that you want to use, but now we're ready to actually install WordPress. DreamHost makes it so easy to install WordPress for a domain that they actually have it in 2 locations. So from your list of websites, right, when you click on Manage Websites, for a domain, you can click this Manage button for the specific domain you're interested in. And then from this screen, just right down here, you'll see WordPress, and then you can click Install to obviously install WordPress on that domain. The other way, just even from anywhere in your DreamHost panel, on the left-hand menu, you'll see down about here an option called WordPress. And if you click on that, you're going to see Install WordPress. This is the exact same WordPress installation feature. It's just a different user experience or layout. So now it's saying like, hey, you want to install WordPress? Choose the domain that you would want to install it at. So I just selected from this drop-down menu my fictional.learnwebcode.com, and then you can just click Install WordPress. Now this is just personal preference, but when it asks me to select a site purpose for a guided WordPress install, I don't want that at all. So down in the bottom right corner, just click on the None option. It says this is for creators who are already familiar with WordPress. Perfect, that's us. And then scroll back up and click Next. All right, and then recommended plugins. I don't want any of their recommended plugins, so I'm going to deselect all of that. I just want a completely plain, empty canvas, blank WordPress installation. I'll install my own plugins, so I'll click Install. Cool, so here you can see WordPress installation in progress, and I can't imagine this would take longer than maybe 5 minutes. Personally, it looked like it was going to take a lot longer on my end, but then I just went to the tab like fictional.learnwebcode, and as soon as I clicked refresh, it was already working after like, a minute or two. And then as soon as I went back to my panel, it immediately sped up and looked like it was almost finished. Cool. I mean, you can take one look at this and see that this is indeed a WordPress installation. Now, first thing that we're going to talk about is how do you log in as the admin user of this WordPress website? Because you might, if you're anything like me, your instinct is to go to the address bar and at the end of it, add on /wp-admin, right? And then you visit that. And then you're going to wonder, like, what in the world is my username and password, right? Because we didn't manually install WordPress. DreamHost automatically installed it for us. So you and I have no clue what the admin username and password is. Well, check this out. We're going to fix that right now. Back in our DreamHost dashboard, from the Manage Website screen, because this is a automatically installed WordPress site, you'll see this little WordPress icon right about here next to your domain. So click on that. And that's going to use a token in the address bar, and DreamHost is going to programmatically log you in. All right, let me zoom in so we can read this. And now it's saying, notice you are using the auto-generated password for your account. Would you like to change it? So all you would need, you can use this link right here, or you can always find that by just going into Users in the left-hand menu, and then clicking on your user account. And if you scroll down just a bit, you'll see username. Now, you cannot change the username. So if you're anything like me, I would store this in a text file somewhere on your computer, like in a notes file on your desktop or your documents folder, because there's no way I'm going to be able to remember this randomly generated username. Well, and before we move any forward, I mean, you don't need to change the username and password. If you want to always use the DreamHost little icon here to log in, that's fine. That's your prerogative. Personally, I would like to manually keep track of my own username and password, though. Anyways, that's your username. You can't change that, but you can change your password. So then you could just go down, if you scroll down towards the bottom of this user account screen, click Set New Password, enter in whatever password you want to use, and then down at the bottom, just click Update Profile. Cool. So now whether you want to log in from DreamHost or you just want to log in, manually with your own username and password, we're good to go. All right, but anyways, I can use this link at the top left to go back to like my public facing website. Cool. So at this point, we don't just want an empty canvas, totally blank default WordPress installation. What we want, back on my local dev environment, that I'm the only one who can view, we want this. We want this WordPress installation with all of our pages. If you go into our blog, all of our posts, all of our custom post types, our plugins, our data, right? Like even files we've uploaded, like the images for Barks a Lot and Meows a Lot. We just want literally all of the PHP, CSS, JavaScript files of our themes, plugins, all the data in our MySQL database. I mean, we want everything from this WordPress installation, and we want to move it over to this WordPress installation that lives at our live website. So in our very next lesson, I'm going to show you my favorite way of migrating or copying over a WordPress website like that, right? From one WordPress installation to another. Let's keep our momentum rolling, and I'll see you in that next lesson very soon. Hello everyone. In this lesson, we're going to learn how to migrate or sort of copy over one WordPress website into a different WordPress website. Let's jump into the action and let me explain. So in the previous video, yes, we already have our local dev environment with our totally finished, awesome fictional university website. However, we just set up a real live public domain. So for example, I set up fictional.learnwebcode.com, and this is just a brand new empty WordPress installation. So in this lesson, I want to show you my favorite way of moving over everything. All of your themes, all of your plugins, all of your settings, all of your user accounts, all of the data in your MySQL database, your posts, your pages, all of your uploaded files, all your CSS or JavaScript, I mean literally everything. So it's all going to start with one plugin that is amazing. Because personally, I don't want to have to manually move over MySQL database data and move over a bunch of files. So let me show you what we're going to do. On your local dev copy of our finished fictional university website, go into the admin dashboard and go to the plugins screen. Okay, we're going to add a new plugin. So this button right here, install or add a new plugin. And we're just going to search for a new plugin. Its name is, well, you can see my suggestions here, all-in-one migration. That is indeed the name. So if you search for all-in-one migration, you'll know that it's the right plugin because it should have over 5 million active installations, and as of today it's by a company or author called ServeMask, but it's this one, all-in-one WP migration and backup. Let's go ahead and install that. Okay, and then don't forget to click the activate as well once the installation is finished. So we'll click activate. Okay, and then just go ahead and refresh your admin dashboard, or like I just click back onto the dashboard. And as soon as you do that, now down towards the bottom of your left-hand menu, you'll see this new option, all-in-one WP migration. And then in its submenu, we're interested in the export option. However, before we get to that, there are a few very important details that we need to take care of first. I'm not ready to bundle my data, and that's because, first of all, in this local dev environment copy, my admin username and password are super insecure. I mean, my username is admin and my password is admin because I'm the only one in the world that can access this website. So I didn't really care about security. I just wanted something that was really easy to remember. But before we bundle this and use, because remember, we're also bundling up the database, like the MySQL database information. So once we export from this website and then import onto our live website, that will then be the new username and password for the admin account. So before we create that bundled export, let's go into the users menu on our local dev environment. And remember when I was setting up the My Notes feature, I tested having a guest account. It also didn't have a secure username and password. So you'd want to be sure to go in and edit that password. Or in my case, I'm just going to delete the guest account for now. I'll just delete all content associated with that user. And then I'll go into the admin user and just be sure to set a new password. So that way you don't get hacked in the first 30 minutes of uploading your website. Perfect. And then do be sure to keep in mind that now this username is what's going to be used on your live website. Remember in our previous lesson, it was like the randomly generated DreamHost admin name. Well, once we import this exported bundle file, this will be your live website's admin username. Cool, so click Update Profile, and now we just have one more detail before we create our bundled up export. Right now, if we did use the all-in-one and click Export, and then from this screen, you're going to click Export to File. I'm not going to click that yet because the bundled file would be probably around 1 gigabyte. And let me show you why. We need to delete all of our node modules files. Let me explain. So So in local WP, if from your website, so mine's Fictional University, if you click on this option, go to Site folder, and then go into App, Public, Content, and then I want to draw your attention to our plugin and themes folder. Let's start with the plugins folder. So in this chapter, we created these two, Interactivity Quiz and Solved Counter. So if you go into Interactivity Quiz, this node modules folder is probably close to 1/4 of a gigabyte. So just delete it. And then once we create our backup, if you ever need to work on this plugin again, you could just run npm install to get all of those files back. Go into your solved counter and do the same thing, right? Delete the node modules. That's probably like 250 megabytes. Cool. Now you would want to do the same thing for all of your plugins before creating your bundled export file. And you would also want to do the same thing for all of your themes, right? So like Fictional Block Theme, Fictional University. Just go in and manually delete any and all of the node modules folders. Cool. With that done, now we're actually ready to try to create our bundled up file. So again, from the all-in-one WP migration menu in your left-hand menu, click on Export, and then we're going to use this option, Export to, and then we're going to choose the File option. Cool. So I'll fast forward through this in video editing, but it shouldn't take more than maybe 1 or 2 minutes. Perfect. So mine just finished. You can see it's 163 megabytes. So I'll click this link to download it. Cool. I'll just save it into my computer's downloads folder. Cool. So now you can click close, and we've created that bundled up single file. Just to run this by you, for some reason Google Chrome just marked that file. It says insecure download blocked. We don't want to block it, so I'm going to click this keep button. Cool. So now if you go into your computer's downloads folder, there you will see that brand new file. And what's cool is just this one singular file now contains all of our MySQL database, all of our uploaded photos, all of our themes and plugins and CSS and JavaScript and settings. I mean, this is awesome. So now all we need to do is go back to our live website. So for me, that's fictional.learnwebcode.com. And let's go into the admin dashboard, and we just need to install that same plugin. So go to the plugins area, click add new plugin, and just search for the exact same plugin. So it's called all-in-one migration. It's this one with 5+ million active installations. So let's click install. And once it finishes, then let's be sure to click activate. All right. Then as soon as you refresh, you'll see this all-in-one WP migration. This time on our live website, we don't want to export, we want to import. Cool. And then what option do we want? We want to import from a file. So we'll choose the file option and then select that file that we just created a minute ago in your downloads folder. Okay. And then depending on the speed of your internet connection, this could take, I'm not going to say a long time, but you never know. I mean, if you have fast internet, this will take maybe a minute or two. If you have slow internet, you might need to go on your lunch break. This might take an hour or two. But everyone's internet speed is different. So through the magic of video editing, I'll fast forward through this. All right, so after a few minutes, my upload finished. And now this screen is just warning you that this will completely, essentially erase or overwrite your existing live website. So, I mean, anything that was in your database, your themes or plugins, just absolutely do not do this unless the website that you're importing into is completely empty and you don't care about it. Do not do this on a website that you care about because you're essentially turning it into a carbon copy clone of the website that you're importing. So I'm okay with this. And then it's also warning me that the PHP versions don't match, so that could fail, but I'm very confident it's going to work. So I'll click proceed. Okay. And now this next process shouldn't take maybe more than a minute. In my case, it will take a bit longer than normal because in one of my lessons, I showed you how to have like 10,000 or 100,000 fictional pets, right? And store their favorite color, their favorite food. So that's a lot of fake data that it's having to restore and set up in the database. So it won't normally take this long, but let's be patient. Okay, so that process completed for me, and now I see your site has been imported successfully. So let's click finish, and now as soon as you do that, you're logged out. So like if I try to click dashboard, you're going to see that I'm logged out. Now here's why I'm logged out. This website no longer uses the password or username that DreamHost set up or that you set up in the previous lesson. It now uses the exact username and password from your local dev environment. That's why we wanted to be sure to change it from admin to something more secure. So in my case, my username is admin, but my password is a long, secure string. But go ahead and try to log in. Cool. And we're back in, only now if we visit the front end for our website, you can see it's fictional.learnwebcode.com, but we have our complete website. So I can click on About Us, I can go to the various sub pages, I can click on Programs, I can click into Biology, I can click on Barks a Lot. I'm logged in, so I could give Barks a Lot a like or a heart. I could remove that heart. Let's try out the My Notes feature. Let me edit this, add a few exclamations, save it. I mean, you get the idea. You could refresh to prove that that save persisted. You can go to the blog. You can check out our custom post types, or our custom blocks, the quiz. You can get these all correct. Cool. Anyways, you get the idea. This is live. Anyone in the world can visit fictional.learnwebcode.com. You don't need to use a subdomain. You could have, if I really wanted to, I could have set this up at learnwebcode.com. But the idea is now, we have moved over our local dev environment to a live, public, real website. This is awesome. However, our job is not done yet because there's one crucial component we need to think about. How can we efficiently and easily make ongoing updates to the files of this website? Like, I don't mean if you needed to edit the About Us page. You would just click Edit Page and use the WordPress admin dashboard, right? Simple enough. But I mean, what if we need to change the CSS files, the JavaScript files, the PHP files, or like our custom coded plugin files, like our actual developer programmer source code files, right? The year is not 2002, so we wouldn't want to use FTP. We also don't want to have to go into the DreamHost panel and use their web browser file upload tool. In the modern era of web development, we want to use Git, right? So that way, even if we're in VS Code, like editing one of our themes, CSS or JavaScript files, we can just pop into our command line and it would be as simple as just saying like git push live master branch. Just push enter and that's it. Like that one command would automatically push all of our CSS, JavaScript, PHP, our theme and plugin files, boom, up to our live website. It's a silky smooth workflow. It's the industry standard workflow. However, it's not always the most intuitive or obvious of how to get that set up on a really affordable shared hosting plan. The beautiful news, the good news though, is that DreamHost absolutely offers that feature, and we're about maybe 20 minutes of configuration away from having that ideal, perfect workflow ready to go. That's exactly what we're going to set up in our next lesson. I'm so excited to jump into that with you. Let's keep our momentum rolling, and I'll see you then. Hello, everyone. In this lesson, we're going to learn about Git. Now, even beyond the world of WordPress, just in terms of writing code or programming in general, Git is the industry standard way of keeping track of changes to files over time and also synchronizing or moving or pushing those files from one computer to another. So, how do we get started with Git? Well, the first step is just to have Git installed on our personal computer. Now, you might already have Git installed. If you want to check to see if you do already have it installed, just open up your terminal, or you could use VS Code and Control or Command J to open up the terminal. But either way, just a command of git, G-I-T, and then a space -- version, and press enter. And if you see command not found, that means you don't have Git. But if you see any sort of version number here, and I'll let you in on a secret, you don't need the latest, most updated version. Pretty much any version will do. But if you see something like that, that means you have Git. Now, if you don't have Git, don't worry. It's very easy to install Git. If you're on Windows, I would recommend just visiting the official website. So it's git-scm.com. If you Google for Git, you should find this as one of the first links. And then down here, you would see a link that says download for Windows. Awesome. If you're on a Mac and you run this command of git -- version, your Mac will probably prompt you with a little like Mac pop-up and say, do you want to install Git from the Apple Developer Tools or the Apple Xcode Developer Tools or something along those lines? Just go ahead and click yes or allow that. And within 10 or 20 minutes, you'll have Git installed. Cool. Now, there are a million tutorials on the internet of how to get Git installed on your computer, so I'm not going to walk through the details of that with you. So if you need to pause this lesson, that's great. But from this point forward, I'm going to assume that everyone watching this video has Git installed. Now, once you do have Git installed, the first step is to enter your name and your email address. Don't worry, this isn't registering with any service online. It's just for every time you commit or sort of lock in changes to files, it's going to associate that change. Essentially, you're the author of those changes. So it's just for record keeping. It's not actually giving away your private data to someone. But what you would do is you would say git, so you would run this command with me, git config -- global user.name. And now, if I just entered that without anything else, it's going to tell me my name. But the idea is you can press up on your arrow key to enter that command again. To change your name or to set your name, and this is what you need to do before you use git for the first time. You say git config -- global user.name, and then a space, and then include a double quote, and then just type in your name, right? Like whatever your name is, and then end the quote, and then press enter. Okay, after you enter your name, you also need to enter an email address. So you would say git config -- global user.email, and then again quotes, and then it's just like your email, whatever your email address is, and then close out the quotes and press enter. All right, once you enter your email, we are now done with the initial setup. Now let's learn how to actually use Git. So the first thing to understand about Git is that it is folder based. So you need to choose a folder on your computer that you want Git to quote unquote track or keep track of. So if we're wanting to keep track of changes to our themes and plugin files on our local fictional university website, right? Our PHP, our CSS, our JavaScript files, if that's what we're wanting to track, the question becomes, which folder should we track? Well, this is where Git becomes less of a science and more of an art, meaning there's no right or wrong answer to which folder you want to track. Let me explain. So if you go into local WP for your local fictional university website and use this link to go to site folder, and then you go into app, public, WP content. My question to you is which folder would we want to track? Like if you go into themes, do we want to track just this one theme? Do we want to track both of these themes? Do we want to track all of the themes? Or if you go into your plugins folder, do you want to track just one of these plugins or all of these plugins? Or what if you want to track all of the plugins and all of your themes? Or better yet, what if you wanted to track not just themes and plugins? What if you go up a folder into your public folder? What if you wanted to track even the core WordPress system files? I've worked at jobs before where we actually disabled automatic updates on the live website, and then it was someone's full-time job to, every time there was a WordPress update, they would test locally every WordPress website with the latest updates to make sure that it didn't break anything. And they would even keep all of that, like the core system files, tracked in Git. But I can tell you right now, 100% I don't recommend that approach for 99% of websites. So as of today, let me share with you my approach that I use and that I recommend. And let me stop asking you these hypothetical questions of which folder we should track and actually give you my subjective or personal answer. So the approach that has worked really well for me is to absolutely not try to track the core system files of WordPress. Absolutely just leave the automatic updates on the live site enabled, and I want to have a more hands-off approach. So always let the live server update for security purposes, and then the only files that I want to control live in the WP content folder. So I would actually just track this entire folder of WP content, and then if we want to, if there's something in here that we don't want to track, we can just tell Git to ignore a specific folder or file in here. But at least by tracking just this folder, we're already at a good place. We're already going to be tracking all themes, or at least easily have the option to track all themes and all plugins and any MU plugins, must-use plugins. Cool, so that's my approach. That's my subjective answer. That's the folder that I would track, the WP content folder. Now, how do we turn this into a Git project or a Git repository? How do we tell Git to start tracking this folder? Simple. We just need to open this folder in our terminal. So you could use your system's built-in terminal, but you know what I think is probably the easiest option? Just drag this WP content folder into VS Code. All right, you'll know that you opened the correct directory in VS Code if you see folders like MU plugins, themes, so on and so forth. So with that directory open, just open up your command line, so controller command J, and we use the command of git and then a space init to initialize. So git init, go ahead and press enter. Awesome, we just created our first Git project, or the vocabulary word in Git is called a repo or repository. All right, now before we learn how to lock in changes or, even go into one of our files and make a change and then lock in that change, before we get to that, I first want to show you how to exclude certain files or folders. Like what if we wanted to track the entirety of our WP content folder with the exception of the uploads folder, right? There's really no need to track those because you're going to want to upload different test files locally that you might not want automatically synced or pushed to your live website. So the way that you do that in Git is you create a file. So right about here, let's right click and click a new file, and it has to have this name. It must be named .git ignore. And then in that new file, you list out the file names or folders or a pattern that you want to ignore. So for that folder, you can just say uploads. Now check this out. As soon as you save this file, notice that gets grayed out instead of green. So there's a lot of things that I would want to ignore. So even maybe below that, we could say like node_modules, right? All of our NPM packages. I don't want to track those. I don't want to push those up to the live site. It's just a waste of bandwidth and space. I would also ignore upgrade and upgrade temp backup. So like upgrade on a new line, upgrade temp backup. So you can save and watch those get grayed out. Perfect. I also would want to ignore this all-in-one migration backups folder. So AI1WM-backups. I'm on a Mac, so I would also want to ignore .ds_store. It's just hidden system files on a Mac. There's no need to back those up or track those. And then finally, I would ignore this index.php file in the root of WP content. So just /index.php. Now I want to point something out. It's important that you include the / here. Without that, that would tell Git to ignore any and all index.php files, even the ones that are nested in like a theme or plugin folder. And we don't want that. We do want to track those. So this / means just the file in the root of our folder of WP content. You can see it's grayed out. Perfect. Right? But if you go into themes and then fictional university themes, notice index.php is green. It's still being tracked. Absolutely perfect. That's what we would want. Okay, and then finally, I would also ignore /themes/index.php. These files just exist so that random people can't see the file structure or file directory on your live site, but /plugin/index.php. Cool, let's go ahead and save that. And so those are all of the files and folders that I think we should ignore. We're ready to move forward now. So let me show you how to lock in a set of changes. So first, we want to tell Git which of these added files, essentially they're all added because we haven't locked anything in yet. It was an empty canvas and we added all of this. So like for example, if you run git status, it's going to show you everything that you've changed. And then it's up to you. You could add each individual file and folder one by one. So like check this out. You could say like git add the themes folder, right? And then if you run git status, you can see all of the files in your themes folder have been added. And then it says untracked files. Like these are the changes that you haven't added yet. So the idea is that when you say git add, you're selecting which one of your changes you're getting ready to lock in. Now, I'll let you on a bit of a secret. What I normally do 9 times or almost 10 times out of 10 is I just run a git status to make sure I'm happy or that I'm okay with all of the changes being added. Like I make sure I didn't change a bogus file that I didn't intentionally mean to change. And as long as things look good, I just use this shortcut to add every file so I don't have to manually spell out which ones to add. So you just say git add and then a space dash and then uppercase A. This stands for all. So this will add any and all untracked files and folders. So just git add dash uppercase A, press enter. Now when you run git status, it's going to tell you, it's going to be a huge list of files, right? It's basically every single file that we told it not to ignore. Cool. So now that we've added basically everything, gotten everything ready to be locked in, how do you actually lock it in? Simple. There's a command called commit. So commit is how you lock it in. So you say git commit -m and then give it a single quote and you're just giving it a descriptive little bit of text, like I'll say our first commit. In the future, you want to give a more descriptive bit of text, like added a new banner or added a new plugin or something that would be useful to look through when you're looking through a history of commits. But in this case, this will do just fine. Go ahead and press enter. Cool. So we have locked in those changes. We've committed those changes. Now, let me explain what in the world that means or why that's cool. Let's imagine that your cat or dog walked on your computer's keyboard and accidentally deleted a bunch of your files. Like if I go into WP content and go into themes, like imagine if I accidentally deleted fictional university theme. And then imagine you like emptied your computer's recycling bin. So right now I'll even do that. I'll empty my trash. Cool. Now normally there would be no way to get those files back, but because we just locked or committed in our changes with git, check this out. All right, so we're missing the folder here. To get it back, all you would do is just say git checkout dash dash and then a space and then a dot. If I press enter, look at that. We've got our folder back with all of its files inside of it. So the idea is that once you lock or commit in some changes, you don't need to worry. It's very easy to revert back to a commit or a locked in version of your project. Let me practice that one more time. So like if you went into like fictional university, index.php, instead of like deleting a whole folder, like if someone added like a bit of bogus code that's going to completely break and error out the file, right? All you would want to do is just git checkout dash dash period, press enter. It's immediately back to how it was. Perfect. So in terms of our local personal computer and our local WP site, we are good to go. Git is working. We've created a repository. We know how to lock in or commit changes. We know how to revert back to the last commit. This is awesome. Now we just need a way to say git push. We want to push our Git repository or Git project somewhere else to some other computer. And the computer that we want to push it to is our live website. So for me, that's, fictional.learnwebcode.com, but we just want to push it somewhere else. Trust me, being able to keep track of your changes and syncing those changes between multiple computers, this is really, really powerful. And even outside the world of WordPress, this is how all developers and all programmers manage their changes. So at this point, we just need to set up our live website to essentially be a Git host or a Git remote, like a Git repository that we can push towards. That's exactly what we're going to learn how to set up in our very next lesson. I'll see you then. Hello everyone. In this lesson, we're going to set up our live site to be a Git host that we can push towards. How in the world do we set that up? The answer is that we need access to the terminal or command line of our live website. Now, how in the world do you log in or access another computer's command line? Simple. We're going to use a technology called SSH. So let's dig into our DreamHost panel right now and learn how to set that up. Now, what's really cool is that, yes, on a lot of web hosts, you can log into the command line, but a lot of the super affordable, low priced hosting, this isn't even an option. You're not allowed to log into the command line. So the fact that we have shell access or command line access on such an affordable hosting plan, this is awesome. So from your DreamHost panel, let's click on Manage Websites either in the top right button or over in your main menu. We'll click Websites and then Manage Websites. You might only have one domain, but just go ahead and scroll down until you find your domain. Okay, so here's the one I'm looking for, fictional.learnwebcode.com, and we're just going to click on the Manage button for that website or that row. So click on Manage, and from this Manage Your Site area, we're interested in this Manage Files option. And so if you just look here where it says Login Info, we can click this little arrow to drop it down or expand it. All right, and the first step that we must do is enable SSH. You can see SSH stands for Secure Shell Access, shell being like a terminal or the command line. So you can see it's disabled, but you just click this little radio input, this little checkbox, click that, and now it's enabled. Now, that is going to take, you can see it's counting up or counting down. That might take a good minute or two, but be patient. It's going to update your user permissions. Okay, so mine took about a minute, but now it's finished. And I just realized I might have wasted a little bit of your time because yes, it's finished. And yes, now we have SSH access. However, we forgot to sort of write down or remember our password for this shell user. In other words, we could open up our terminal now and log in to our live website's command line. However, because I forgot to write down the password for this user, that would be impossible for me to guess. So right now, let's do two things. Let's write down our username. So this is a randomly generated username. Yours will be different than mine. And it's not going to change, so you could always just reference it here. But I like to save this in like a text file or some sort of secure password manager on my computer. So I'll leave that up to you where you want to store that. But just go ahead and write that down somewhere. All right, and then our password, we need to change this so that we actually know what in the world it is. So just click on change password. All right, and then just enter a value that you can either remember or keep track of somewhere, and then click reset password here. All right, now this is why I was laughing a bit before and said I might have just accidentally wasted a little bit of your time. Once you do that, it is going to take another minute or so to update or reset your password, but let's go ahead and be patient, and I promise once this is done, we can indeed actually log in to our live website's terminal. Perfect. So mine took about a minute or two, but now it's updated, so we are ready to go. Now you can use your computer's built-in or default terminal, or you can use VS Code and just open up your command line with Control or Command J. Right, this area down here. So it's totally up to you where you want to do this. I'm going to use my computer's built-in terminal just because it's bigger and I have more space to see. Like, you'll probably want a decent bit of screen real estate for this, but here's what we're going to do. We're going to say SSH and then a space, and then you just type in your username. Now, not the username that you use to log into all of DreamHost, but this username, right? So remember this value that I told you to write down or store somewhere? So yours will be different than mine, but mine is DH_3S6T8E. Yours will be something totally random and different. And then the @ symbol, type the @ symbol after your username, and then your domain. So my domain, again, yours will be different, but mine is fictional.learnwebcode.com. Go ahead and press enter. My apologies, someone's using a leaf blower outside my window. Go ahead and press enter, and that should prompt you for your password. Well, actually, first it's going to ask you, do you trust this fingerprint? Do you want to move forward? And we're just going to say yes. Type in yes and then hit enter. Cool. Now it's going to prompt you for your password. So that's that password that you just made up 30 seconds ago. So type yours in and press enter. Awesome. So I'm in. I've successfully logged into my host's command line. So they're just warning me that like any malicious activity is strictly forbidden. Basically just, be a good Samaritan, be a good citizen, don't do anything weird. But now we are in the live website. Let me show you how you can prove that to yourself. So in Linux, if you type ls, it's going to list the contents of the current directory that you're in. So we are not on our personal computer, we're on our web host's computer. And so there's 3 directories. Let's change into this directory. That's, our domain. So just cd stands for change directory, and then just type that in. Now, I believe if you just hit tab, that should give you the auto suggestion, but if it doesn't, you would just type in your domain, right? So cd and then a space and then whatever your domain folder name is. Go ahead and press enter. Okay, we've now changed the folder that our command line is pointing towards. So now if we run ls to list the contents for the current folder, boom, awesome. All of the WordPress files and folders and directories that you would expect, right? Like WP content, so on and so forth. Cool. Now in a minute or two, we can get to the actual task of this video, right? We want to set up this web host to be a Git host or a Git remote that we can push our local Git repository to update our CSS, our PHP, and our JavaScript files. Before we get to that, I want to show you how cool DreamHost is. DreamHost has already installed WP CLI for us. So before we get to Git, I want to show you from the command line how you could install a plugin on your live website, right? So this is my live website, fictionallearnwebcode.com. There's this really cool plugin that I like called Query Monitor. And when you're logged in on the admin bar, it'll show how many seconds and how many queries it took to build the current page that you've navigated to, right? So I want to show you, obviously you could go into your admin dashboard and, go into plugins and then click add new plugin. But that's kind of slow. So there's this industry standard tool called WP CLI. It stands for WordPress Command Line Interface. And what's cool is that on a lot of hosts, you would need to set that up yourself or install it, but DreamHost already has it ready for us. So check this out. We can just say WP and then a space. WP is the command line interface for WordPress. So WP space and then plugin and then a space, install and then a space. The name of the plugin I want is Query-Monitor, but you could install any WordPress plugin. You just need to find the short name for your plugin. And then at the end, let's say --activate to both install it and activate it in one step. So I can press enter. Cool, it's already done. And now check this out. If I refresh my live website, boom, there is Query Monitor. You can see this page took, 0.09 seconds. It took almost 6 megabytes of memory. Awesome. If you're wondering, hey Brad, how would I find the short name of the plugin I want? You just go to the WordPress website, wordpress.org, click on Extend and then Plugins, and then search for the plugin that you're interested in. Like if I search for Advanced Custom Fields, and then you click on the plugin that you're interested in, whatever you see up in the address bar, right, like the lowercase with the dashes, that would be the short name that you would use for the command. Cool. Now, let's imagine you want to deactivate that plugin. So like if I didn't want this to be here anymore. Simple. You just say WP plugin deactivate and then the name of the plugin. So query monitor. Press enter. If I refresh, it's already gone. So obviously that's just an example. There is a lot more that you can do with WP CLI than just manage plugins. You can visit the official website. It's wp-cli.org. Then in the navigation, you can click on commands. You can see there's WP cache, config, cron. I mean, there's a whole every feature that you could imagine you can probably do from the command line. So if you get familiar with some of these, it can save you a lot of time. It's just a really cool tool to have at your fingertips, and it's already installed. But let's switch gears and let's get back to the actual task at hand in this lesson. We want to set up our live website to be a Git host that we can push our local Git repository to, right, in order to update like PHP, CSS, JavaScript files, in our WP content folder, our themes, our plugins, so on and so forth. So back in the command line, let's switch gears here. Now, if you're anything like me, sometimes you don't want a full screen of all this text. In the command line, you can always just say clear and press enter, and that's going to sort of give you a clean slate to look at. So we're still logged in. It just sort of cleared the screen. Awesome. Now, how in the world can we set things up so that this live website has its own Git repo, sort of like an empty canvas repo that we can push our local repo? Remember in our previous lesson in VS Code, we set up our local website's WP content folder to be a Git repository. And our goal is to be able to push this local Git repo up to our live website's Git repo, right? So like anytime we change a CSS or PHP or JavaScript file, we just say git push, and it automatically syncs all of our files, all of the changes to our files up to our live website. Cool. So let me hide VS Code so we don't get confused. Let's switch back to where we're logged in to the command line of our live website. And right now, let's learn how to set this up to be a Git host that can be pushed to. Well, I say right now, but I'm realizing this is actually a really good place to stop and take a break, and let's pick up in the very next lesson, right? If you've never worked with the command line before, just getting logged into a remote server like this, that's huge progress. Cool, but in our very next lesson, let's pick up right where we left off, and let's learn how to set up our website as a Git host. We'll learn all of the commands and how to do this together. I'll see you in that next lesson very soon. Hello everyone. In this lesson, we're going to answer the question, what in the world is a bare repo in the world of Git? I'll give you a hint. It's what's going to let us set up our live website as the Git host that can be pushed to. Let's jump into the action. All right, so I'm still logged into my live site's command line or SSH session from the previous lesson. But right now, let me practice with you logging in and out of that SSH session. So I'm logged in, but if you want to exit that session, you just type in the command of exit and then press enter. So now I'm back on my local computer, like my personal Mac. If you want to log back into your live website to refresh your memory, it's just SSH and then a space and then your username. So yours is different than mine, but mine was DH_3S6T8E. After your username, then we have the @ symbol and then your domain. So my domain though is fictional.learnwebcode.com. Go ahead and press enter. That'll prompt you for your password. Type that in and press enter. Cool, so I'm successfully logged in. Let's go ahead and run the clear command just to give ourselves a clean slate. Cool, so you can run an ls command just to prove to yourself that you're on your live website. There are the folders. Now at this point, I want to create a new Git repo on the live website. But the question is where, like in which folder or in which directory on the live website do I want to create that repo in? And I'll give you a hint. I do not want to create it inside of the main publicly hosted folder of fictional.learnwebcode.com, right? Because anything inside that folder is like publicly viewable to the web. However, outside of that folder, right, like we see folders like logs and mail directory or maildir, these are only accessible to admins of the server, like you and I, and DreamHost staff. So I want to create a folder alongside these other folders, and you can name it anything. You can name it unicorn or pizza, but I'm going to name it like our repo. Let me show you what I have in mind here. To create a directory or folder, it's mkdir. This stands for make directory, but mkdir and then a space, and then the name of the folder that I want to create, I'm going to call it like our repo. You could literally name it anything though. Press enter, and now if we run an ls, cool, there's our new folder. Now you might be wondering, why did I want to create it outside of the public folder or our domain folder? Well, this is where we're going to physically push our Git repo to. And then once it's finished, like once the server has received every last kilobyte of our push, only then will the server automatically copy over those files into the correct location that's publicly available. In other words, that task of actually pushing to the server, that is like a private system or admin function, and then the server can handle copying those files over at precisely the right millisecond. Anyways, in this our repo folder, so let's change into it. So cd and then that folder name, so cd our repo. This, now if you want to check the folder you're in, you can always run pwd, which stands for print working directory. So from this, and this will be your username, but from the our repo directory, this is where we would create a Git repository. So we're going to say git init. However, don't press enter yet. Not just git init. We want to include the flag of, so dash dash, the flag of bear. What is a bear Git repo? It doesn't have its own working directory. So no one is like actually programming CSS file changes or JavaScript or PHP file changes in this copy of the repo. A bear repo is designed only to be pushed to. So like maybe you and 3 other coworkers, you all can push to this repo, but no one is directly working on this repo. So it's bear. Cool. So git init dash dash bear. Go ahead and press enter. Now that's going to do a few things for us. In this folder now, if we run an ls, Git automatically created these different folders for us. And the one that I want to draw your attention to is the folder named hooks. Check this out. Let's cd into that folder. If you cd into hooks and then run an ls, Git automatically creates all of these different hooks. Like before a commit, after a commit, before a merge, after a merge. These are different events that we can hook onto. I actually want to create a brand new hook file. So we're going to create a new file in this folder called post receive. In other words, once post means after, right? So after Git has fully received whatever we're pushing, like once it's received that last kilobyte, like it's fully received the push, what do we want to do after that? Don't worry, I don't expect this to make sense right now, but in about 5 minutes from now, it will make sense. So anyways, in that hooks folder, let's create a new file. In Linux, you can create a new file by saying touch and then just a space in the name of the file you want to create. Now, I'm not making this up. This cannot be pizza or unicorn. It must have this exact file name. It must be post-receive. Make sure you're spelling receive correctly. And then it doesn't need a file extension, no sample, no txt, just post-receive. Go ahead and press enter. Okay, and now let's edit that file. To edit that file or to type a little bit of code into that file, we're going to use a command line based text editor called nano. So nano and then a space. The name of the file we want to edit is post-receive. Make sure you're spelling it correctly. Let's press enter. Cool. So in this file, let's start by saying hashtag or pound sign exclamation /bin/bash. This just makes sure that the server is using the right shell or the shell that we would expect to run this script. Press enter. On the next line, here's the important part. Essentially, we're going to write a line of Git code that tells Git, once you've received that last kilobyte of the push, once you've fully received the data, then we essentially want to copy over the entire repo from our repo folder into the publicly available folder, that the entire world can access and visit. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to say git and then a space -- work - tree equals. And now this is where you spell out that publicly available folder, right? And remember, we're looking for the WP content folder. So we're going to say /home, This might be slightly different depending on the web host you're using, but I know that for DreamHost Shared Unlimited, this is how we start the path. It's /home/ and then the name of your user. So remember, in the DreamHost admin panel, whatever your randomly generated shell username is, so yours will be different than mine. So you'll need to type in yours, but mine is DH_3S6T8E/ and then this would be the domain. So again, yours is different, but mine is fictional.learnwebcode.com, right? That's that folder. Inside of that folder, so /, we're looking for the WP content folder. That's the folder where we want to sort of check out or have all of our files, right? All of our plugins, all of our themes. That's the folder that Git is tracking. Now, after that, we have a space, and then we're going to say --git -directory, or excuse me, dir equals, and now this is where the repo lives on the server. So that's that folder we just created a few minutes ago called our repo. So it would just be /home/ and then your DreamHost username. So again, DH, and yours is different, but mine is 3S6T8E/ and then I am named my folder our repo. Finally, a space, say checkout, and then a flag of -f to force the checkout or make sure that no matter what, it actually happens. Cool. At this point, we're ready to save this file. So in the Nano text editor, you just press Control-X to try to exit. It's going to say, hey, you have unsaved changes. Do you want to save it? We're going to type Y for yes. Yes, we do want to save those changes. We don't want to change the file name, so just press Enter. Beautiful. Now, before that file can be executed, we do need to make sure it has proper permissions. So in the command line, we're going to say chmod, and then a space, +X to make sure that it's executable. And then the file that we're trying to give these permissions to is post-receive. Go ahead and press Enter. All right, here's the exciting news. Our server is now ready to go. Now it's just a matter of making sure that our local Git repo knows where to push to, right? It's a big, wide internet out there. So in VS Code, when you open up your local WP site folder, right, and you go into app, public, so go ahead and open up your local WP content in VS Code. And then in VS Code, make sure your command line is open. So how can we tell Git, our local copy of Git, that when we say git push, like where in the world do we want to push to? Well, to add a location that we can push to, we just say, and again, this is in our local VS Code copy of Git, we're going to say git and then remote add, and now let's make up a nickname for our live website. So it could be unicorn, it could be pizza, it could be anything you want, but I'm going to choose the aptly named like nickname of live, and then a space, and now we just sort of point like where does that live or how do you log into it. So SSH:// and then your DreamHost username. So for me, that's DH, yours will be different, _3S6T8E @ and then your domain. So mine is fictional.learnwebcode.com. Yours will be something different, /home/. So I'm just pointing towards where that repo actually lives. So home, so after home, it's / and then my username again. So DH_3S6T8S. Yours will be something different, / and then the folder name was our repo. Right, that's where the bare repo lives on the server. So go ahead and press Enter. Perfect. Now, before we try to push up some changes, there's a few things that we need to do. First of all, let's have a really obvious change, just so that we can look at our live website and immediately see if the change went through or not. But before we even modify maybe like the homepage text here, let's take care of one important detail. We need to pay attention to the name of our branch. So in newer copies of Git, or especially like Apple's built-in version of Git, your default branch is named main. Now you can run git status to see on branch and then the name of your branch. However, I'll let you know that DreamHost uses a default branch name of master, not main. Now, yes, there is a way to change the default branch name of that your server uses, but I have tried countless times, and for some reason the DreamHost server doesn't remember what I want to use as the default branch name. So again, as of April 2024, the best method that I have found is to simply change the name of my local branch to match the stubborn branch name that DreamHost wants to use. So in other words, if your local branch is named main, we need to change that to master really quick. So you would just run this command. You would say git checkout -b master. So this is going to do two things. It's going to create a new branch from your main branch, and it's going to be named master, and it's going to automatically switch or check out that branch. So go ahead and press enter. Beautiful. So now we're perfectly synced with the name of the branch between our local copy of Git and our server's copy of Git. All right, at this point, let's go make a change. Let's change this text to have 3 exclamations instead of 1. Now, depending on how far you've worked through this course, you're going to need to decide which theme to edit. So like if I go into the themes folder, there's both fictional block theme and fictional university. If you haven't worked through the fictional block theme chapter yet, then obviously you would want to edit just one of your fictional university PHP files. In my case, though, the theme that I have activated is fictional block theme. And then I'll just go into the templates folder, and then let me open up frontpage.html. All right, and then on line 4, let's change this default value here to have 3 exclamations, and then don't forget you also need to update it here, like the generated content to match the raw data. So 3 exclamations here and 3 exclamations here, otherwise you'll get a block error. Let's go ahead and save that. And now we need to commit or lock in those changes. So if you run git status, it's going to tell you, hey, you have 1 modified file. That's the file I just changed. So we're going to say git add -A to add that area, to add that file to the staging area. It's ready to be locked in now. So now let's lock it in. So you say git commit -m for a message. Let's say quotes, changed homepage title. And the quote, press enter. And now here's the cool part, the moment of truth. Let's push that up to our live website. So to do that, we say git push, and then the nickname for your live website. Remember, I named mine live, and then the name of your branch. So master. So git push live master. Go ahead and press enter. Now this is going to ask for your DreamHost account's password. Don't worry. In our very next lesson, I'm going to show you how to set up a passwordless login so that this doesn't need any sort of password. You just get automatically logged in. However, for the time being, let's walk before we can run. Let's just type in your DreamHost SSH password. So the same password that you use to log in the command line to your live site. So enter that and then press enter. I ran into an error and I'm really glad I did. I'm going to leave this in the video on purpose because there's a decent chance you'll run into the same error. So I have a typo in my remote URL. So remember when we said git add remote, I had a typo in my DreamHost username by just a character or 2. So I'm seeing this message fatal. That does not appear to be a Git repo because I left off the E in my DreamHost username at the end. So let me show you how to update the URL for one of your Git remotes that you're pushing to. We're going to say git remote, and then instead of add, we're going to say set-URL. This is how you change a remote value for one that already exists. And then the name that we chose, the nickname, was live, and then we just give it the value again. So SSH : / and let me get it correct this time. My DreamHost username is DH_3S6T8E. I believe I forgot the E last time. At fictional.learnwebcode.com /home/ my name again, DH_3S6T8E / our repo, right? That's where the Git repo, the bare repo, actually lives. Let's go ahead and press enter. Now let's try this again, now that that path should be correct. So it's git push live master. Should ask for my password. Let me go ahead and enter that. Press enter. Cool, it looks like it's working flawlessly. Now that first push is going to send over every single file in our entire repo just because this is the very first commit. So the Git repo on the server has no idea of the files that already live on the server that were installed automatically by DreamHost. But let me put your mind at ease. From now on, anytime we push a change, it's only going to send over the 1 or 2 or 10 files that we actually modified. Cool, but that initial push is sending over every file. However, if I go to my live website and hit the refresh icon, awesome, we are in business. It may not seem like a lot, but this workflow is amazing. So we just updated our site without even leaving VS Code where we were developing the site. practice makes perfect, so let's practice one more change. Let's change this in that front page template. Instead of like 3 exclamations, let's just have welcome period, and be sure to change that here as well so that it matches. So I would save that. In the command line, you could say git status. Aha, yes, only that one file changed, so let's add it. Git add dash uppercase A. Let's commit it. Let's lock it in. So git commit dash M for a message. Let's say changed headline and the quote. Okay, that locked it in. Now let's push it up to the web. So it's git push live master. Press enter. Now again, in our next lesson, we're going to set it up so it doesn't even ask you for your password. But for now, just enter your password. Press enter. You can see that was instant. It only sent that one single file. If I go back and refresh, we are in business. This is awesome. Now in our very next lesson, I'm going to show you how to set up passwordless login using SSH keys. So that way, not only when you're running git push, but also if you want to log in your real terminal, you won't have to enter a password whatsoever. The DreamHost server will just sort of recognize your computer, your laptop or your tower. It'll recognize you as you, and it will just automatically let you in without a password. That is the final missing ingredient to an ideal, perfect workflow, in my opinion. I'll see you in that lesson very soon. Hello everyone. In this lesson, we're going to learn how to set up passwordless login. Or in other words, we're going to learn how to SSH into our live web host from the command line without having to type in our password. The technology behind this that makes it possible is something called an SSH key. Now, before I show you how to create an SSH key on your personal computer, I first want to show you how to check to see if you might already have one. If you've never worked with Git ever before, there's a good chance you don't have one, but if you do have one, I wouldn't want you to overwrite it. It wouldn't be the end of the world. You would just need to update maybe your SSH key in GitHub, so on and so forth. But anyways, enough with the ramble. Let me show you how to check to see if you have an SSH key. And just to be clear, everything that we're doing for the next 5 minutes, this is taking place on your personal computer. So in the command line right now, I do not want you logged in to your web host with SSH. I want you just on your personal private computer. So type cd in your command line, either your built-in terminal or VS Code, but let's change into your home directory. So cd and then a space and then the tilde character. This will work on both Mac and Windows. Okay, now when you're in your home directory, type cd and then a space dot SSH. Okay, if you see a message of cannot find that directory or unknown directory, then I can already tell you, you do not have an SSH key. So you'll want to create a new one in about 2 minutes in this lesson. However, if you do have this SSH folder, you can then type ls, and you'll see a couple of files in here. In particular, we're interested in these ID underscore ed25519, and then the same one that ends in .pub. So this file without the .pub, this contains your SSH key, and that's secret. Don't ever leak the value that lives inside this file to anyone. And then this file that ends in .pub, the value that lives in this file you could share with a service like GitHub or GitLab or Bitbucket, or in this case, we're going to share the value that lives in this file with our DreamHost web server. But essentially, when we try to log in, the DreamHost web server, or if you're trying to connect to GitHub or Bitbucket, they're going to look at this value and determine if you are the person that you're claiming to be. And the secret value that lives in this file, well, I'm not going to pretend like I understand the complete dance that happens, but essentially the secure value in this file is somehow used to check a value or encryption, to see if it's a match, to see if you are who you're claiming to be. But anyways, if you already have these files, that means you already have an SSH key. So if you wanted to check the value that lives in your .pub file here, you would just say, and this will work for both Mac and Windows, type cat. It's going to output the value of a file onto the screen, and then just type in the version that ends in .pub. So if you type ID and then just hit a tab, and then that auto completes and say .pub, press enter. Cool, so there's your value. So if you already have these files, right now I just want you to copy this value, this entire value that it just output onto your terminal, copy that into your clipboard. All right, now if you don't have these files and if you don't even have the SSH folder, that's okay. That means you don't already have an SSH key, and right now I'm going to show you how to create one. Let me cd back into my home folder just so we're all on the same page. You can do that too if you want to. So just cd tilde. All right. So if you don't already have a key, this is what you're going to do. Run this command with me. SSH dash keygen, and then a space, lowercase t, and then ed25519, space dash uppercase C, double quote, and then type in your email. So like your email at google.com, just whatever your email is, and then end the quote and press enter. Okay, then it's going to ask you where you want to save the file. You can see it's just going to save it into your home folder in the .ssh folder. Perfect. So we don't need to change that. Just press enter to accept that default value. It's going to ask you, well, in my case, it's saying that already exists. Do you want to overwrite it? I'm going to say yes, just because I want to walk through this process with you. Okay, it's going to ask for a passphrase. I don't need a passphrase. I trust everyone in my household. My cat isn't going to get on my computer and steal my SSH key and take over the world. I don't think there's a security threat, so I recommend not having a passphrase. But if you were working on something absolutely mission critical and someone that could get physical access to your computer was not trustworthy, then you might want a passphrase. I'm not a security expert. Some people might disagree with me and say that you should always have a passphrase. I'm not going to have a passphrase though, so I'm just going to leave that empty and press enter. Press enter again to leave it empty. Cool. So now check this out. Let's go get that our public key value. So again, we would say cd. We're already in the home folder, so just cd.ssh, run ls. Now you will have these same files, right? Now you'll have this id, ed, in the .pub version. Cool. So at this point, just the same thing that we did 2 minutes ago, but if you just newly generated this file to get access to the content that lives inside it. And to be clear, you don't want to cat out the content of the non-pub version. We only are interested in doing this for the .pub version. That's the version that we can share with other servers and other web hosts. But you would just say cat ID, you can hit tab for auto completion, type in .pub, all right, and then just select the entire string of text that it output in response and copy that into your clipboard. All right, with that value copied into your clipboard, we are done with our personal private computer. Now we just need to log into our web host through SSH and essentially give it that public key value so that it can trust us, and in the future we won't need to enter a password. So to refresh your memory on how to connect to our web host SSH session, it's just SSH and then a space and then your username. So remember, yours will be different than mine, but this is mine. It's DH_3S6T8E @ and then my domain was fictional.learnwebcode.com. Go ahead and press enter. That will ask you for your password, but here's the good news. This will be the last time you ever need to enter the password. So enter your password, go ahead and get logged in. All right, beautiful. So now I'm logged into my public server. Let me show you how you can give it your public key so that it will trust you. So first of all, let's make sure we're in the home folder. So cd tilde. All right, you can always run pwd to see where you're at. Cool, that is indeed the home folder. Now, if I run an ls with a -a to show even hidden files and folders, you'll see that there is no existing SSH folder in our home directory. So we're just going to create it. So from our home directory, we're going to say mkdir to make a folder, and the name of it is .ssh. Go ahead and press enter. Now, if you run an ls, you would need to say ls-a to show hidden files and folders. But there we see it. Cool, .ssh. Let's navigate into that folder. So cd.ssh. Now, currently there's nothing inside that folder. So we just want to say touch to create a brand new file in the SSH folder. And it needs to have the name of authorized_keys. So I am not making this up. This cannot be pizza or unicorn. It must be all lowercase authorized_keys. Go ahead and press enter. All right, now let's edit that file. Let me run a clear just so I'm back up at the top of the screen. We're going to say nano and then that file. So authorized keys. All right, and now in this file, just paste in your clipboard. Okay, then we're ready to exit and save this file after you've pasted in your value that was in your clipboard. So your public SSH key value. So Control X. It's going to say, do you want to save? Y for yes. Enter to accept that existing file name. Awesome. All we need to do now is secure those files and just give them a little bit of different permissions to make sure that someone else on this same shared host could never access that file or folder no matter what. So here's what I'm going to do. Let's change back into our home folder. So cd tilde, and then I'm going to say chmod 700 on that folder. So on the .ssh folder. And then I'm also going to say chmod 600 on the authorized keys file. So .ssh/authorized keys. Awesome. At this point, we are done. So check this out. Let's close our SSH connection. So you can type exit, hit enter. So now I'm back on my personal private computer, my MacBook. Let me run a clear, or you know what, just to even really prove the point, let me open an entirely new terminal window. Change into my home folder. You don't need to do that. I'm just trying to prove a point. So like, imagine it's a new day, it's a new week. Like imagine it's a month in the future or whatever. I want to log into my web host. Check it out. I will not need to enter my password. So it's just as simple as SSH, my name, let's see, 3S, 6T8E at fictional.learnwebcode.com. Now check it out. I'm not going to need to enter a password. I just press enter. Awesome, I'm logged in. Now, you might be wondering, why is this so cool? Like, how often are you really going to need to enter into your SSH? Well, maybe not that often, but let me show you this. Imagine I want to make a change to this headline in my VS Code, like my files that I'm going to push with Git. Like imagine if I wanted 4 exclamation points here. So in WP content, our Git repo that's local, I'll go into my templates in my themes folder. Here it is, welcome. Let me just add like 4 exclamations and then do make sure that this value matches, or else you'll get a block error. But let me save that. Okay, now I'm working locally. I could run a git status. I see, ooh, yes, that is just the one file that's changed. I like this. Let me add everything to the staging area. It's all ready to get locked in. Let me lock it in. So git commit -m. I'll say changed, home page headline. End the quote, press enter. All right, now I'm ready to push that up to my live server. Now what's cool is because we set up our Git remote using SSH, now even when we run git push, it will not ask us for a password. So I can just say git push live master. You know, that one command, I pressed enter, it's already done. So it sent the one file, it did not need my password because it can trust my SSH key. It trusts my physical personal computer. If I go back and refresh, absolutely awesome. It may not seem like a big deal, but for me, being able to have this automated Git workflow on such an affordable and accessible hosting plan like the Shared Unlimited on DreamHost, I mean, this is just amazing to me. This is the workflow that I use for all of my DreamHost websites. And remember, in DreamHost, it's as simple as just if you had different domains or if you want to set up subdomains, maybe when you get a new client, they're going to buy a new domain or you can buy it on their behalf. But from your DreamHost dashboard, you're just going to go into Manage Websites, click on Add Website up here in the top right, and just for every website, you can set up this workflow. You only need to set it up once, and then forevermore, your website has this silky smooth workflow. And if you're working with multiple developers on a project, like they need to be able to push to the live website too, that's all right. You would just go into your servers, that authorized keys file that we created in the SSH folder, and you would add in their public key. Anyways, that's going to bring not only this lesson, but this chapter on deployment to a close. At this point, you know how to launch websites to the public web for the whole world to see. I'm so proud of you. Let's keep our momentum rolling, and I'll see you in the next lesson. Hey, thank you for watching this entire video. If you enjoyed this lesson, you might enjoy the full course that this was an excerpt from. So the full 44-hour WordPress course covers plugin development, theme development, and so much more. You'll find this link to join the full course in the description for this video, and the bundle also comes with my full stack dev course, my Laravel course, my MySQL course, and my React.js course. You also get access to the private Discord chat community. Thanks again for checking out this video, and stay tuned for more web development tutorials.